modeling. And if you look at the handout on Fronter, page 49 to page 56 is a short explanation of different modeling strategies, and it is especially targeted towards modeling for smoothing with Catmull-Clark surfaces. So if I create something simple like a polygon cube here, let's make this a little bigger. Then, as we looked at, if I press 3 on the keyboard, I get a smoothed version of it, and 1 will get the hard edge one, and 2 will get both. And if I grab a vertex here and I move that, you can see that this affects the model. Now, the way that that Catmull-Clark surfaces works is a bit similar to how NURBS curves work. So if I go to front view here and I draw something called a NURBS CV curve, then as I draw the curve here, you can see that I get a nice smooth curve. If I go to component mode and turn on hulls, you can see that each of these points here controls an area of the curve. So if I drag this, you can see that it's roughly an area of 3 points in each direction that is affected when I drag this point. If I want to create a sharp corner here, then since this is a degree 3 curve, I need 3 points to create a sharp corner. So here I have 2 points. I get a semi sharp corner, and if I add 3 points, I'm able to create a sharp corner. And that is the same type of math that is used when we're using Catmull-Clark surfaces. So if I just pop back to 3D view and I look at this model here, I can make it more detailed by using page up or page down. So you can see I smooth it more or less. So something like this. If I then insert an extra line here, and I'll use a tool called Insert Edge Loop. So I go to Edit Mesh, and I go to Insert Edge Loop tool. If I then click on a crossing line here, you can see that I can drag this at some point. So if I drag it over here, this will essentially mean that I have 2 points close together. So I get something that is tighter, but not a totally hard line. If I then add another one in between here and let go, you can see I get something that is very, very close to a sharp corner because of this. So that way you can control Catmull-Clark surfaces is by inserting extra detail. And the same thing goes if I go to Insert Edge Loop, and then I insert another line here. I can then tighten it up in that direction as well. So that way I can create different types of sharpness. And if I grab these edges here and move them, you can see that I will like relaxing or tighten it up. If I then go to a different type of model, I'll just go and create a polygon plane here, and make that a little bigger. Then there's different approaches to creating different types of models. So if I grab the 4 central faces here and I use my extrude tool, edit extrude, or in my shelf, this button here, and I just drag this up, something like this. I press 3 to smooth it. You can see I get this, and if I just extrude an extra one, I'll get this little line here. Yes, I can go back and do it again. Just back up. So I create a polygon plane. I just scale it up, and then I grab the 4 central faces here. Could be 4 faces over here, but I'm just doing it in the middle. When I do the extrude here, I have the keep faces together on, so that's why they extrude as one unit. I'll just press 3, and you can see the difference here between keep faces together and not together. And if I do an extra extrude, I'll just add an extra line up here. So this is the result of extruding these 4 faces like so. And if I use my insert edge loop, I added it up here, so I can insert an extra edge loop here, there. You can see I tighten this up, and I get like a semi square result, right? If I want this to be round, there's a different approach. So I'll create another plane, just move this over, so it's over here, grab this, make this bigger, and here I'll do something different. To make this more round, what I'll do is I'll try to make these points in here rounder. So I'll go to vertex, I'll grab the vertices going around, and then just look at it from the top view, and then I will scale these outwards like so. So I create something that will be a circular area, and if I then grab the same faces and I extrude it again, there, just press 3, and then I'll do it again. You can see I get something that looks more round than this thing over here. But it's not really the perfect thing I'd like yet. I'd like it to act a little differently than this. So let's try something different again. So I drag this here, and then I create a new polygon here. So what I can also do is I can extrude this single face in here, single vertex. Just grab this vertex in the middle, and I go extrude, and that will create this sort of thing. Okay. If I then just go to the poly extrude here, and I'll just make the length 0, just to make it stay down there, and then I can change the size of this to anything I like. I'll just leave it at this. Okay. So the thing I want to show here is, right now I created a square at the middle, and we talked about the fact that squares are the best sort of thing. So right now I have a few triangles, and I then have some pentagons, or 5-sided polygons. So if I smooth this, it'll look like this, which isn't too bad. I'll just get back to that. So if I'll just do a duplicate of this and put it aside. So I'll do this 2 different ways. So if I just grab this face here in the middle, and I will turn on smoothing, and I will extrude this up like so, and I'll just repeat. So I get something that looks quite round, and I can insert an edge loop down here. So I get something that looks nice and round. It's pretty good, but it's not exactly what I want. Right now I'm leaving the computer to figure out that this is a pentagon, etc. So if I look at the copy here, what I'll do is this. I'll use my split polygon tool, interactive split, and you can see that there's this little orange dot flying around. So I'll click here, and I'll click here, and then right click to make it stick. So I'll do this all the way around. And the nice little trick here is that now this is actually a 4-sided polygon, and this is a 4-sided polygon. So it's all 4-sided now. That is what we like to have. And then I'll go to vertex, and I'll grab these vertices here, and I'll just scale these out until I have something that looks more like a circle, something like that. And I'll grab these faces that are here, and I will then extrude these, and I'll just press 3, I'll do an extra one. So I get this thing here. And this is more along the lines of what I'd like to have. I just add an edge loop here. So this is the approach to get something that is nice and circular. Make sure you have 8 sides on it, and make sure it's sort of circular to begin with. An added bonus here is that because I reordered or added extra lines here, I have changed the flow of edge loops. So if I grab my insert edge loop, what it uses is something called winged edge technology. So if I click here, it'll say, okay, I'll go this way, and it'll look at one and the other side, and it'll find the edge going across. So that means if I click here, it will find the whole flow. And the same thing goes the other direction, of course. But here we have a 5-sided polygon, so it will terminate when it gets to this point. You can see it can't go any further because it's not a square that it's hitting. And if I click here, it can't really do anything because it's in the middle of a 5-sided square. Over here, on the other hand, I can do the same thing, add a line here and add a line here. But if I click down here, I'll actually get a line going around because I reordered the way that my my curves flow. And this is a very efficient way of working with polygons, because often you'll get to select a lot of polygons, but this way you can create lines that will flow nicely, and also you can select them. So if I double click an edge here, you can see I'll get all of the edges that are part of that loop, or in here where it goes all the way around, and then I can start to work with that to change maybe the shape of it, maybe scale it in to create a different type of look and feel. And there's other examples where this makes a lot of sense. So if I move it over here, if I wanted to create something like a basketball, I can create a polygon sphere. And actually I can't remember the exact settings for something like a basketball, but if I do it like 10 in each direction, then right now if I use an edge loop here, you can see it'll just run until it hits the triangle up here. And that's not what I want. So what I'll do is I'll look at the sphere here from the top, and what I'll do is I will select edges, and I'll select all of these edges and all of let's see, I actually need to select these and these. So this is going all the way through, so it's both sides, and I'll delete those. I get this, and if I then use my split tool, I can then hook these up like so and so. So the result of this is that these are all squares now, and you can see I smoothed it nicely. And if you know the shape of a basketball, you might actually be able to sort of see it developing here. So the thing is that if I wanted to create something, let's just go and say basketball. You can see it has this interesting curve flowing through, and that's sort of the same thing I'm getting here. So if I go and insert edge loop, I can put one in there, and I can put one in there, and you can see I have my poly split ring over here, and I just set these to 0.5. That means in the middle for both of them. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to use this edge here and this edge here and this edge. I actually have a dead vertex in here. I'll just fix that in a second, and let's just have a look. And then I need the line going the other direction, so I need one line going through here. I don't have that at the moment. I need to add that. So just go and insert edge loop, and that doesn't work because I have this dead polygon. So I'll just go in here, and what I mean by dead is I have a vertex in here that is it's just there and nobody is connected to it, so it really doesn't do any difference. I can just delete that. The same thing goes for the other end. There. And if I then use my insert edge loop tool, I can make it go all the way through. Set that to 0.5. I just need to find that one. So set that to 0.5. This is in the channel box instead. And then I will double click this and double click this and double click this. So this is essentially the lines I will need for a basketball. And then what I can use here is something like the bevel tool. I'll go to bevel, and you can see it creates this edge going out from the center here. And if I set the fraction to off, it should be fine, sort of. Let's see. Ooh, doesn't do a difference here. Do something like, oh, just tighten it up. Okay, it's because it's smoothing, like so. Do this. Maybe have 2 lines going through here. Actually, I just have that one. And then I'll grab this. You can see how useful edge loops are. That makes it really easy to select things. So I have this now, and if I then smooth it and I scale this in, I can create this depth for that curve going around here, and I could add another level of a bevel here. So if I just go and say bevel again, and then make this a little wider, something like that. So I get something that starts to look like a basketball. Now it has a weird shape right now. So what I'd do is I would use a little trick. I will actually use an animation, just do that. I will use an animation tool to reshape this. So if I go to animation, there's something called a deformer. So I'm going to create a deformer called a sculpt deformer. That is just a sphere. See, it's in here in the middle. So as I scale this up, you can see it'll start to affect the object, and that will make it, hopefully it will make it round. Let's see. I need to fix one thing first, because right now it's actually smoothing this thing. So what I need to do is just make the sculpt deformer go away for now. Sorry, just get that out of here. And then I need to smooth this. So I'll go and smooth this just to add extra geometry, like so. And then I'll take this new geometry that looks like this, and then I'll add the deformer. So I'll go sculpt there, and then scale this up. And you can see now I get this nice round look. And then what I need to do here is actually something called delete history to get rid of the deformer. So I go edit, delete by type, history. So you can see it removes all of the information how this was created. But now I have a sphere that looks exactly like I wanted. And then I can go to edge and then grab these edge loops again. And that would be there, and it would be there. And then I'll use a little trick. Hold the control key, right click, say to faces, and that will convert my selection to the faces in here. And then I can do one or two things. I can scale these in to create this indentation for the basketball, or I could extrude them, but this looks fine. And then of course this I would add a different material for it. So this should be black. And then if I hold shift, I will toggle select the whole model, and then the other part I will make that orange. Something like, just go So you can see fairly quickly, because I was using
Quickly, because you can do it quickly.
yeah, but the thing is, doing this without edge loops would take forever. The idea here, the real trick, is when I create the original sphere and I remove the edges at the top of the bottom and then realign them so that I'm able to create this flow going around this area here. And the same thing goes if you're creating something like a face. Let's see if I think I have a face model somewhere.
Let's
See.
so you can see.
This was not the right one. Maybe we can just grab the one from Modbox here. Let's go new scene, and then in here just grab a basic face. If you look at this, you can see that there are like circular lines in this model as well. So if I send that to Maya, okay, I'm getting this. And I'll just turn on wires. And if I then use my polygons insert edge loop, you can see how this will enable me to flow lines through the model and at different in different ways depending on what I select. Maybe something going through the line and up around the mouth and up to the nose, or maybe around the chin here. So that way you can control how your edges flow through the model using edge loops. So edge loops are very useful, but the whole thought process that goes on there is to think about your model as a grid, and then you need to realign it so that you can control where your curves are going. So if I, for instance, wanted a loop going around this way here, then what I would need to do is grab my split tool here and say, okay, I want it to go this way. So this created a triangle. I don't want that. This should be a square. So something like this perhaps. So now this is a square, but this is not. So that's one of the things I would have to consider. So just go and grab these. Just start deleting some of these edges here. And say, okay, this thing here, I need to get rid of this. I need to get rid of this. So this line here, when it gets to this point here, I actually have a vertex in here, I just need to get rid of. To go across here, I need to have a line on each side here. So this line here should, for instance, go there, and this one should go there. So that is a way to do this. So if we just go and say edge, you can see right now I'm actually selecting that edge flow because it has one wing, two wings, and the same thing here. And this thing up here, I would need to consider how to get rid of this. So just maybe do this, add this line in here, and perhaps add a line in there as well. So this way I could control the flow and then make the edge loop go exactly where I want it to. And if I then move this up, for instance, let's move this. So you can see this way I would be able to create dents in the surface, etc. There's also this thing called offset edge loop. So like I can insert an edge loop, like so. There's another option called offset where I click on the actual loop and I add one to both sides. So something like this, and then I can then drag this up later because now I've added, maybe drag this down, and then I can go to my edge loop here and tighten it up so I can get nice looking sharp edges. If you're doing something like a product design, I can then just add a little extra detail there. So you get nicely looking sharp edges going through the model simply by using edge loops. Edge loops are very tightly connected to the whole idea of smoothing your model because it's a nice way of doing But it's something you need to work with, and as I said in the handout, there's a few explanations of how you work with this. One final bit about edge loops is the fact that if I grab a cube and I smooth this, I can use insert edge loop to add a nicely rounded bevel or whatever to the model, so it looks something like this. So I get a model that looks quite nice. Let's just go page up and turn up there. So you can see I get a nice looking model. And often if you want something to look good, you need to have this little rounded or beveled edge, because it catches the light in a special way and it makes it look more believable. The other option here is if I create the same cube, and in this case I'm going to use the bevel tool. So I'll go to polygons, edit mesh, bevel, and if I then smooth it, you can see there we get this. And I can control, actually do this, I can control the size of the bevel. So I can do something like this. And if I need it to be tighter, I can add extra segments. So something like 2 tends to look fairly good. So you can see I get exactly the same thing, but in a different way. And yeah. So the bevel tool is very nice for creating these rounded things as well. Another thing about more advanced modeling is a tool that doesn't work well with smoothing, but works well in creating other types of things. So I just turned off smoothing on this thing. So now it's just the model, it's not smoothed. And if I add a cylinder here, let's make that bigger. The other thing I'd like to talk about is what's called Boolean operations. So Boolean operations essentially is 3 different options. So you can either find the intersection between 2 models, you can find one model subtracted the other model, or you can find the union of the 2 models. So I grab both and I go to mesh, booleans, and I say union. So you can see what happens here is that it simply cuts one model into the other, and this becomes one model. So now it's one piece. But as I said, it doesn't work well with smoothing. If I smooth this, you can see it looks really yucky. So you have to be careful. If you wanted to smooth this, you had to like create a transition zone around this where you would split the polygons going around here until you had something that looked nice. But let's just try with the boolean here. So right now it's set to union. If it's difference, you can see it's one minus the other, or if it's intersection, it's both things intersected into each other. So this can be really efficient for creating a lot of different models, but you have to be aware that smoothing is often something that is very difficult to do. Once you work with a model like this, you can see it's not really an edge loop type of model either. It becomes really difficult to work with, but it is a really strong modeling tool for what's called hard surface modeling. So booleans is something you should try out if you need to do like mechanical objects as well. Yes, I think you should attempt in again in the handout. There's a couple of tutorials on how to do these. So try out the different ways to do subdivision modeling, and then we'll go on to the final thing where we'll build a house after the break. Okay.